invite you to affirm with us that there's a healing going on. A healing within, a healing in our nation, a healing on our planet. As we speak it, so it shall be. Mother, Father, God. Mother, Father, God. There's a healing going on. Mother, Father, God. There's a healing going on. Mother, Father, God. There's a healing going on. Oh, you rock my soul. You rock my soul. Oh, you stay there. Hey, hey, hey. Happy Sunday, beautiful people. It is so good to be here with you. It's so good to see y'all. So good to feel your vibration in the comments. And I know we are ready for today. We are ready to dig in, to learn, to expand, to clarify, and to celebrate the truth of who and whose we are, the magnificence of God that is, and recognizing that it is operating in, through, and as us. So let's begin, as we always do, with prayer. And this morning, our prayer champion, Lavonda Elam, will lead us in prayer.
Good morning, and peace be with you this Sunday, Celebration Spiritual Center. I invite you, wherever you are, to lean into the presence of the here and now as we anchor and unite in prayer. Infinite beloved Spirit, as I anchor in the presence of the here and now, I recognize there is one power, one presence, one truth that is the divine intelligence operating in this thing we lovingly call life. How good it is to know that this truth is absolute and that it moves and has its being in the seams of unconditional love, that it moves and has its being as ancient wisdom that guides our pathways, that it moves and has its being in all knowledge, peace, harmony, and perfect understanding. As I move from this place of truth, I'm grateful that this infinite presence of good lives in me, that it lives in you, that it surrounds, touches, and that it is everywhere we are in its energy as it deeply expresses and uniquely expresses its divine idea as every life force present here today. Thank you, wondrous Spirit, for the awesomeness that you are as each of us. Thank you, Spirit, for the love that is reflected as you through each of us. And thank you for the myriad of ways that we get to let go and release any ideas that tell us that it ain't so, and that we get to return again and again to the love that we are. As we come together today in this remembrance and in this one-mindedness, let us convene today as we recognize that we are here to expand our superconscious learning. Let us convene today as we allow our minds to react like sponges that are ready to receive all that is ours to receive. Let us convene today as we allow our spirits to be sparked like the wonder of a child's curiosity. Let us, Spirit of harmony, be easily reminded of the reservoir of abundance, prosperity, and wealth that is ours, that is available to us as our very lives. Infinite beloved Spirit, this is what I hold in truth today. I hold in truth that PG and PY are pumped in their practicum. I hold in truth that we are inspired and ready to get our fit on as we are pumped up in our practice too. From a well filled with gratitude, I give thanks for the vision that spurs this teaching. I give thanks for the enrichment of our minds that is bound to happen today. And I give thanks for the thing because I know that it is already done. So I release this prayer back to the law of correspondence with an amen, ashe, and so it is.
Yes, yes. Amen.
Ashe.
And so it is.
It is.
It absolutely is. Well, again, hello and welcome to each and every one of you. We see that many of you are already shouting out where you're connecting in from. And it's good to always see you in the comments. I can't stress it enough that we feel your energy as you're commenting and expressing, and we absolutely appreciate it. Now, we know there are at least someone here today that may be joining us for the very first time. And so we are grateful and thankful to have you here. Welcome. Hello. Thank you for choosing to spend your streaming time on Sunday to be with us here virtually. And so we would love to stay in touch with you. If you'd like to stay in touch with us, we send out a weekly email and other updates related to what's going on here at CSC. And in order to join our mailing list, you just need to follow the instructions you see here on your screen. Text the word welcome to 347-472-1078. Please just text the word welcome. And no emojis, no other signatures. And you will receive an automated response with a link. Click that link and complete the information. Saying this each week because we're noticing week by week that there are folks that text us. And so that's the first step. But then don't click the link and don't provide the rest of the information. And that's very important because, of course, we're going to talk about today being God Talk Sunday. And in order to get the information to attend the God Talk, you have to be on the mailing list. The information will be emailed to you, the Zoom link and password. So we want to stay in touch with you. We want to share with you, but you have to complete all of the steps. So you text the number, you get a reply. Tap the link, enter your name, first and last name, and your email address, which is all we need. And then you're all set. You will receive a reply that says that thanks you for completing that and lets you know that you're all set. So with that said, we do have a few things to discuss and a few announcements. So we'll get into that and move forward from there.
Yes.
Yeah. So we first want to start with just acknowledging and recognizing that this past week has been tough. This past week has been emotional and emotionally taxing for all of us, right? Us, we, your pastors, have been moving through emotions just as much as the rest of you, I'm sure, have been moving through emotions. And so I want to take a minute just to talk a little bit. What we decided is that, thank God, this is God Talk Sunday. And so we want to use that space to have a larger discussion, to allow space for questions to be asked, and to support you in whichever way you need to be supported in this moment. But we cannot declare it and say it enough that Black Lives Matter.
We will keep saying it.
We'll keep saying it. And of course, we say that, and we also know that matter is the minimum, right? This is just about life and death. Stop killing Black people, right? And of course, Black Lives Matter well beyond that, as Black lives have supported and contributed to this nation in profound, innumerable ways. Black lives literally matter, right? There's so many things that we encounter in our day that because of a Black life, we have that thing in our life. Because of a Black life, we have a certain foundation as a country. Our hearts and our minds, of course, are with the families, specifically as we are, mourning collectively and are experiencing grief collectively, and yet that's somebody's son, right? And yet that's, somebody's father, and yet that's someone's, loved one. And so there's that sort of double, maybe even triple layers of pain and grief that they're moving through. And so we just hold them all in the light of love. We're wrapping them in love and continuing to send that in their direction. And of course, to Chicago and to Minnesota, all of the citizens and all of our sisters and brothers, our human family in those states and in those areas, we're sending love as well. We just, really want to acknowledge that it's okay to not feel okay. And particularly as we talk to Black and brown folks, I encourage you to go back to our service in May. It was either the end of May or the beginning of June after George Floyd was murdered, because we shared a lot there in terms of maintaining your peace. So often people are saying, I'm protecting my peace. One, I'm grateful to see that people are even recognizing that we need to live in our peace, right? But you don't have to protect it, right? Because peace is, but you do have to go to it.
Yes. You have to turn in the direction of it.
Right.
Because right now it is so easy to be consumed, so easy to let our senses be overwhelmed by the images and the information that we are seeing.
Yeah.
And so we know that we want to be informed, but we don't want to in any way traumatize ourselves. And if we find that that's what we're doing, we are under no obligation to view what we know is happening because we know it's been happening.
Right.
And so we turn in the direction of our peace.
Yeah.
And when we have come back to center, we allow that peace to decide where we go and what we do next. But know that we are feeling what you're feeling.
Yeah.
Know that we are holding you and holding the light of truth that is for all of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we maintain, I think we'll talk a little bit about this even in the teaching today, but we maintain still the possibility of a different world, right? We still maintain the possibility and the vision of what is absolutely possible. One of the things that's interesting with this country is that police don't murder their citizens at the rate that happens here in the United States. The disparity is crazy. It's just not normal anywhere else in the world. And I think that's important because so often, some people want to explain this away as the human condition and sin and evil, and humans are prone to treat each other in such an awful way. And of course, we've seen that in human history. But when you start to recognize that there's literally a different reality happening on the planet, that police don't kill their citizens at the rate that happens here at the nowhere near the rate, right? And then, of course, as we consider the mass shootings that have been happening I think over the last 33 days, there have consistently been mass shootings. We also recognize that gun ownership is a unique issue and problem in the United States of America, right? Gun ownership doesn't look the same around the world. And then just civilian murders and don't happen in the same way because there's no access to those instruments. And so we still maintain that a different world is possible.
And in truth exists. And we keep our eyes, our focus on that reality. And we move towards our peace because that is at the center. That is where the clarity is. That is where the answers are. And so, again, we hold you all.
Yeah.
And we'll continue to hold. And see you.
Yeah.
And know you matter.
Maintain your peace, y'all. If you don't hear anything else today, maintain your peace. That means you don't have to watch the video. That means you don't have to know all the latest information. Because your peace is more important than anything else. More important. Right. So again, we encourage you all to join us in the God Talk, which is happening today at 1 p.m. If you'd like to be a part of the God Talk, if you're on our mailing list, check your email. An email went out yesterday, and all the information is there, the link and the password. If you're not on our mailing list and want to join our mailing list so that you can be a part of the God Talk, if you have questions or just want to be in the space with each and everyone, then again, what you need to do is follow the information you see here on your screen. Text the word welcome to 347-472-1078. Once you have completed all the information, you can click the link, enter your information. Once you have done that, you'll actually receive today, and today only, an automated reply. And that reply, an automated email, I should be very specific. You'll receive an automated email that will have the Zoom information if you join the mailing list today. Okay, so we know that many of you will want to be there with us. Check your email so that you can join in with us. Now, we also know that prayer is important and prayer is necessary and needed. And so we do have a weekly prayer call, the Momentum Prayer Call, which happens at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. All the information is here on your screen. You can also find it on social media or in the weekly email. You'll see also that we have a playback number. And so if you cannot make the call live or at any moment you want to tap into the vibration of prayer, you can call that playback number, enter the access code, and then wait on the line. You don't have to enter any more information after that, and the most recent prayer will play. But for those of you that join us live, I share a reading that morning, and then either PY, myself, or one of the prayer champions lead the prayer. And again, that prayer is recorded. Also, if you have a specific prayer request, you can send us an email to prayerchampions@celebrationsc.org. This is a way of you leaving your worries at the door. It's an opportunity for you to tap into collective knowing and to be in a space of openness and receptivity, to release that burden that's on your heart. And know that there are others that are holding it with you so that you can listen, so that you can hear and receive what it is that it is yours to do related to the situation. So please send an email to prayerchampions@celebrationsc.org, and you'll receive a reply and know that we're praying. We also encourage you, when your prayer is answered, you can email us again and let us know that your prayer has been answered, because we love hearing that and seeing that as well. Also, just a reminder for those that are joining us, we are in the midst of our Truth Sunday Masterclass. This is the second week. We're teaching. We're going line by line, page by page each week through the game of life and how to play it. So we're not doing a traditional service for the next several weeks. I don't know, maybe next 7 or 8 weeks. We're going through the text. We're going through the book. So we encourage you to get the book if you haven't already gotten the book. I learned yesterday that some are checking it out from the library, which is really cool. However you choose to get the book, and you'll see in the post here on YouTube and Facebook, the link is there for you to purchase the book on Amazon. But however you choose to get it, it doesn't matter which version you get. This book is in public domain, so everybody and their mama has has published a version. Just get the text. If you look for this image that you see on the screen, this is a recent original edition, and an edition that you can trust, and it's formatted well digitally. But whichever version you get, start reading. Again, we're going week by week. As we get into today's lesson, you'll also see that if you have questions, you can email truthsunday@celebrationsc.org, and we incorporate those questions each week. We have one question to incorporate this week. All right.
And make sure that, during the week, maybe you go back and review the chapter. Don't read ahead. Stay with us. We will be moving through each chapter each week.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, it is time. It is time for us to go within, and PY will lead and guide us.
Yes, it is time. Time to move back to the center. If we found ourselves this week off center, offline, we know that in the moment of our awareness, we can return. Return to the glory that is us, return to the power that is us, return to the peace and the ease that is us, and return to the aliveness that is us. We are so connected that we could never be separate. Our thoughts can take us away, but we are anchored and empowered by this power that we call Mother, Father, God. And just as nature is alive, we are alive. And just as the planets are alive and moving and held constantly in orbit, we are moving and held constantly by this force. But sometimes we feel disconnected from it. We feel fear, doubt, and worry. We have a mind that is swirling in opposition to this truth. And so we take time each week to return. This month has been all about the truth that we are alive in God, not alive without God, alive in God. It is moving and has its rhythm. Its breath is our breath. And we are grateful to know that no matter where we are, God is, and all is well. It sounds like beautiful words to say, but it is an experience that we can know to be true. And meditation offers us the opportunity to practice this knowing, to abide in this knowing, to feel this knowing. And as I like to say, you can read every sacred text, but if you have not the experience of knowing deep within you that God is alive, then all you have is information. And so this week, as always, we get to practice experiencing God, not out there, but within us. So, let's go ahead and prepare ourselves. Glance nice and easy, soft gaze around the room, and just notice where you are. Whether you are seated upright in a chair, on your sofa, or in your bed, make sure that the shoulders are relaxed over the hips and that the spine is aligned, but gently stacking each vertebra on top of each vertebra. And as we settle into the space that we are perfectly comfortable and safe in right now, let's go ahead. And with a slight, easy movement, close your eyes. And go deep into the center. And as the eyes close, the breath begins to be our focus. And we just notice the breath. That is all that is required in this moment. Noticing. Just by noticing, we feel an aliveness as the breath flows in and out through the nostrils. Just by being here noticing, we feel how cool it enters and how warm it exits the nostrils. Just by sitting here noticing, we feel a cycle of life represented by the breath flowing in and out. And we need do nothing but notice. Notice how alive. Maybe there's a slight tingle of the skin. Maybe there are sounds around you that you incorporate into your experience. But all of it points to the aliveness that we get to experience moment by moment, right here and now. Beautiful. And now, let's take conscious control of this power that lives within us, because we have been endowed with the right to take control of it and send it where we want it to go. The breath becomes our servant and our example of the aliveness of God. So let's bring our focus now to the low belly. And together, collectively, let's breathe in the breath of God. Inhale into the low belly now. On a count of 4. Hold it. Count of 4. Open the mouth and sigh it out. Count of 4. Again, inhale into the low belly. Inhale, low belly expands. Hold it there. Open the mouth and sigh it out. Inhale into the low belly, now up through the rib cage, expanding the front and the sides and the back. And when you've reached your fill, hold it there. Count to 4. Open the mouth and let it all go. New breath, new experience, breathing in through the low belly, up through the rib cage, expanding the sides and the front and the back, beyond where you feel air can go. God is there. We make room for it. Hold there. Open the mouth and sigh it out. Inhale into the low belly, up through the rib cage, up through the heart, elongating that airflow through the lungs, up through the heart chakra. Hold it at the top there. And sigh it out. Again, in through the low belly, all the way up through the heart, the center of our healing. Creating a new set point, a new reality. Hold it there. And sigh it out. In through the low belly, up through the rib cage, up through the heart. This time, close the lips and exhale through the nose. This will be the form of our breathing throughout the remainder of our meditative time. In and out through the nose. Each cycle of breath relaxing the body more. Each cycle of breath reminding us that we are alive in God. And each cycle of breath taking us deeper into the center of our peace. We know where to go. We allow the breath to take us there. Enjoy a few rounds on your own. I am alive in God, eternally alive in God, eternally connected to power, eternally connected to peace, eternally connected to truth and ease. Beautiful. Last round. And let's send this peace and relaxation into our feet. Maybe raising the heels if the feet are planted, maybe wiggling the toes. Stop the movement, surrender the feet. Now. Energy and connection and deep-rootedness to the center flow up through the feet, across the ankles. Relax the ankles. Energy flows up the shins and the calves. We give way to that energy, relax the shins and the calves. Energy flows across the knees. We surrender, we bend, we allow this aliveness to flow. Relax the knees. And as we give permission for relaxation to take hold, allow the energy to flow across the thighs, the hamstrings, and make its way towards the glutes and the hips. We relax the thighs, the hamstrings, the glutes, and now the hips. Nothing obstructing our flow. Surrender the lower half of the body and make room for energy to be gathered at the base of the spine. That energy is wanting to flow up and out. That Kundalini always wants to rise. And so we allow it. In our minds, we envision each chakra there. Energy flowing up, 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 and out the crown of our head. It feels so good to be alive in God now. It feels so good to be connected now. It feels so good to know that right where we are, there is ease now. We summon this power and we give it permission to flow back down through the crown, across the third eye, opening the throat and balancing, moving across and relaxing the shoulders, flowing down the arms and out the fingertips. A completely open channel now. You may turn the palms up to receive more of this energy and flow, or turn the palms down to ground. Whatever you choose, remember that you are alive in God now. Each cell activated, each cell responding to this affirmation, each cell connected. As we move into our silent time, go ahead and scan the body. And anywhere that you feel any tension or tightness or holding on, send the breath as God. Relax and feel the aliveness. As we enter our silent time, I will monitor. You just take that inward journey, and if the mind wanders, it's okay. When you become aware, bring it back to this truth. I am alive in God. And just as nature is alive, so am I. I allow that energy to flow and take me home to the center now. With our eyes still closed, we enjoy these moments of relaxation and connection. With our eyes still closed, we remember that we are eternal and that as God is alive, we are alive. This power is moving when and where and how it needs to move. And so we allow it. Just as water flows, this energy is flowing. And with our eyes closed, we feel it more now than ever before. With our eyes closed, we allow the sensation of relaxation to register more deeply in our mind and in our body, knowing that we can come back to this time whenever we need. We can affirm the truth whenever we need. Let's enjoy a final few breaths here. And slowly, when you're ready, begin making your way back into the physical. And now let's plant the palms on the tops of the thighs, noticing the subtle sensation of activating the body, maybe wiggling the fingers or the toes. Plant the palms. If they have been turned up, turn them down, and maybe rub the tops of the thighs and the knees, waking the lower half of the body. And stop the movement. Inhale, draw the shoulders up by the ears. Nice and easy. Release the breath. Gently relax the shoulders back and down. Again, inhale, draw the shoulders up by the ears. Release the breath, shoulders back and down. Last time, inhaling up. Shoulders back and down, releasing the breath. Bring the palms together at heart center. And nice and easy, touching the thumbs into the sternum, right there at the center. Nice light touch. Noticing the breath as we bow the chin towards the fingertips. We are alive in God, and we bow in gratitude for this knowing. We honor the time that we've given ourselves. And we remember that we could not be more worthy or more loved by this power we call God. We give it permission to move. We give it permission to move us in the direction of our highest good. We honor where we are, and we easily move to the next step. Slowly, flutter the eyes open, taking in a point on the floor or in front of you. Nice soft gaze, no strain on the eyes. Inhale, raise the chin. Raise the gaze, release the breath. Namaste.
Yes, yes. Thank you, PY.
You're welcome.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. We're gonna. I'm looking at the time, trying to see how much time we have. All right, so we're gonna dig into this chapter, and but before we dig into the chapter, I wanted to share the question we received, and this question is a good one because in some ways it allows us to review a little bit of last week, and I think reviewing a little bit of last week is important because the three aspects of mind that Florence Scovel teaches in the first chapter, we need to come back to that to understand the subsequent chapters. So the question that we received, as a seasoned citizen, I love that, living alone, I have had some serious subconscious feelings about death, sickness, and other limitations of old age. Therefore, I am currently in the process of making preparations in case. How do I use my superconscious mind to eliminate the possibilities? I try to think positive, but I tend to have some form of anxiety after seeing others experiencing these possibilities at this stage. I love this question. And one of the things that I love about this question is there's some things I want to clarify in sort of the use of subconscious and the superconscious mind. And so that's why I think it's a good opportunity to review. So Florence Scovel teaches us about the three aspects of mind: subconscious, the conscious, and the superconscious mind. And so what she writes about the subconscious mind is simply power without direction. It is like steam or electricity and does what it is directed to do. Has no power of induction. Whatever a person feels deeply or images clearly is impressed upon the subconscious mind and carried out into the minutest detail. So then let's get to the conscious mind. What's the conscious mind? The conscious mind has been called mortal or carnal mind. It is the human mind and sees life as it appears to be. It sees death, disaster, sickness, poverty, and limitation of every kind, and impresses the subconscious. So this first thing is very clarifying as we look at the question, because in the question we have, I've had some subconscious feelings about death, sickness, and other limitations. Actually, those are conscious, right? That's your conscious mind. And so what's happening is as you're seeing those things, because you go on, you said, I try to think positive, but I have some form of anxiety after seeing others experiencing these possibilities. That's what your conscious mind is taking in, and it's actually informing your subconscious mind.
Right.
Right?
And the more those things are taken in, the more they impress upon the subconscious mind and become beliefs, on and on and on it goes.
And so then we have the superconscious mind. What is it? The superconscious mind is the God mind within each of us, and it is the realm of perfect ideas. In it is the perfect pattern spoken of by Plato, the divine design. For there is a divine design for each person. There is a place that you are to fill that no one else can fill, something you are to do which no one else can do. There is a perfect picture of this in the superconscious mind. It usually flashes across the conscious as an unattainable ideal, something too good to be true. And so then the question was, how do I use my superconscious mind to eliminate the possibilities? Okay. So this is a good question. So the superconscious mind is your God mind, as Florence Scovel says. Your conscious and subconscious, let's just think about those two aspects of mind as your humanness. Okay? That's what's happening here on the physical plane. The non-physical or the spiritual plane is where the superconscious mind or your God mind resides. And it's something beautiful that she says here. Let me just go back to that slide. In it is the perfect pattern spoken of by Plato, the divine design, for there is a divine design for each person. So what we then recognize is that there's an opportunity to tap into the divine design, right? And that would come from asking questions, something that PY calls a what kind of question?
A love-based question.
Yes, a love-based question, right? So we recognize, yes, there are things happening out here in the world, and there are things you've seen other people experience, other seasoned citizens experience, right? And it will bring up a lot of fear and anxiety and worry. But there's a divine design. So what I need to do, or what you would need to do in this situation, is then to say, first affirm, I know there is a divine design for me in my life. As a seasoned citizen, there is a divine design for every seasoned citizen in the mind of God. and I surrender to that. There's an experience I'm seeing out in the world. I see that there are some seasoned citizens who have not surrendered to their divine design, right? What God knows to be true. But what God knows to be true can absolutely be true and express in, through, and as your life as you begin to ask those types of questions.
And the beauty of this is knowing that there is no question that you cannot ask of love or God. And also knowing that part of what you're recognizing when your fear arises are those thoughts that have been deeply impressed upon your subconscious mind. Mm-hmm. And just as you impress those kinds of thoughts upon your subconscious mind, you can impress other kinds of thoughts upon your subconscious mind. But it is not about thinking positively only. That's a tool. Mm-hmm. What it is about doing is understanding the root of your fear around aging. Mm-hmm. And letting go of those beliefs that are associated in your mind and experience and the experience of others you know related to aging.
Right. Being a seasoned citizen only has the meaning that you give to it, right? I love our seasoned citizens at CSC.
They are so bad and fly. Oh my God.
Right? And I thank you all for showing up as God in my life, because I'm receiving, my subconscious is receiving these beautiful and powerful impressions of what being 70 plus looks and feels like, right? And so
60, 70 plus,
right. So I don't even have any
fear around those years to come. I'm
Thank
actually looking forward to those years because
Yes.
of the impressions that I now have taken on. Because if I relied only on, for me specifically, on the impressions that I had before, my mother died in her 50s. She wasn't what you would consider a seasoned person. And so if that was the image, which it was for a minute, that maybe I won't live beyond that time, I had to come up with look for new information to impress upon. Yeah. And I also had to call on the divine design that said, no, that is not your experience. This is going to be your experience.
Yeah. And I love that. That's something that we can all always do, right? Is start to look for examples. It's like I was speaking earlier about the idea that in other countries, the police don't murder their citizens in the way that is unfortunately normalized in this country, right? In other countries, gun ownership is not the same, right? The murder rate by gun, it's almost non-existent, right? So there are literally other multiple realities happening all the time, right? What we focus on and impress our subconscious with is what we then start to outpicture. So what would it look like to look for those seasoned citizens that are thriving, right? What would it look like to look for those places where, you have certain examples in your life now, but you look to other examples. I know I'm thinking about the brother in India that runs the marathon, and there's, right? And he's like, not only that, there's seasoned citizens having children. Like, I mean, there's all of these other realities out here happening that you get to when you understand again how the game works. That what I impress my subconscious mind with is what I begin to outpicture. And PY pointed to something so clearly. And the emotion I feel, that tells me what I've impressed on my subconscious mind.
And also, you are not manipulating the superconscious mind. Please be aware of that.
Right.
You are allowing the superconscious mind to have an experience in, through, and as you.
Yeah.
That's so important. And so that's why we ask love-based questions. Love, how can I approach my life in a more invigorated way that supports me in my divine design? You can ask those kinds of questions. But you cannot control the superconscious mind. No. You can allow it to be its fullest expression as your life.
Exactly. That's so very important. Surrender and allow. We'll always talk about this. We talked about it last week, art of allowing, right? That we allow and surrender to the divine design and let it be. Another awesome question, and both of us have talked about this in so many different ways. Show me. Show me. Right? It's like, I've never seen seasoned citizens thriving. Or if it's something else in your life, if it's around prosperity and, if you grew up in, never having enough, never seeing folks have enough, never seeing folks thrive, never seeing anyone in your family graduate from college, those kinds of things. Show me.
That's a love-based question.
Yeah. It's such
Well,
a
show me
profound question.
how. Show me what? Show me where.
So I hope that's enough. I'm seeing some yeses and some cosigns in the comments. So I pray that's enough. If not, email us back, and we can talk more. So let's get into this chapter. So there's some good stuff here.
Yes.
I wore my done T-shirt to get in the vibration of it is done. It is done. It is done. But Florence Scovel-Shinn is, Lord have mercy, she's doing a powerful thing.
I don't know about you all, but I always hear I don't know what her voice sounded like. I put her very powerfully, like a Maya Angelou voice in my mind and experience. You choose whatever voice you need.
Okay.
But there is power here, and she speaks from that power.
Yes. And so we have the law of prosperity. Now, what's interesting about this chapter, she never writes in this chapter, the law of prosperity is thus and so. Mm-hmm. She never actually does that. Okay. But she demonstrates the principle. So what we have to do is pull out and tease out what we come to understand about what the law of prosperity is. Yea, the Almighty shall be thy defense, and thou shalt have plenty of silver. One of the greatest messages given to the human race through the scriptures is that God is humanity's supply, and that humanity can release through its spoken word all that belongs to us by divine right. We must, however, have perfect faith in our spoken word, right? So there's a powerful truth here that God is our supply, and that we can release this supply through our spoken word, all that belongs to us by divine right.
Right. And again, that points to the allowing. It's just there waiting.
So very important, right? I mean, that's a profound statement if you live in that, right? It's already there. Our spoken word is like a release valve, right?
What calls it forth. And notice we didn't say you have to go out and do a whole bunch of things to get it to be activated. Just like you turn the water on at the sink. You go there, you turn the spigot, it's there, it flows.
Yes.
It's the same idea.
Isaiah said, my word shall not return unto me void, but shall accomplish that whereunto it is sent. We know now that words and thoughts are a tremendous vibratory force, ever molding humanity's body and affairs. And it's interesting. I love that in 1925, she was saying, we know now. And what's interesting about that, if you go back a couple months in the Deep Roots series where I was digging into the history of New Thought and the Black experience, it's very important to understand that there was this beautiful excitement and surge around New Thought and what was emerging with New Thought teaching and understanding. And so but what's interesting to me when I read her say, we know now, and I'm like, sister, I wish you knew what we know now. Right? When we start to bring in new neuroscience and we start to bring in psychology and all of the things that we've come to learn and understand now about the vibratory nature of our words and thoughts beyond what was known at the time, what was known of quantum physics, right? So it's powerful that we know now applies now.
Right. And she's speaking about this in terms of having perfect faith in their spoken word. She is speaking that we know this now in the present moment. Even though they may not have experienced it to the degree that we have knowledge of now, she was speaking it as if it was in her knowledge, in her purview, right there where she was.
And so she takes us into a story. A woman came to me in great distress and said she was to be sued on the 50th of the month for $3,000. She knew no way of getting the money and was in despair. I told her God was her supply and that there is a supply for every demand. Principle. You want to understand the law of prosperity? You got to understand this principle. There is a supply for every demand. Oh my God. I pray that this transforms somebody's mind right here and right now, right? Because so often you're about to be sued, right, for thousands of dollars and you need this money. And so what happens is the fear, doubt, and worry is I don't have. There's not enough. The law of prosperity, the principle of prosperity says there is supply for every demand. And this is then how and why we have the opportunity not to get lost or to stay in fear, doubt, and worry, because we come back to our righteous minds, our right minds, and we say, oh, we remember, oh, wait, there's a supply for this.
Right.
There's a demand. Like, strip it all away of the story, and this is why we try to support y'all in not telling the story. Strip it away from the story. There's a demand. I need $3,000.
And it doesn't even have to be money. Whatever the demand is, what you think is missing. It's almost as if it sends out a bat signal. It's like, oh, this person perceives a limitation. Divine design says there are none.
None.
And so let's feel that.
Yep.
Now I'm anthropomorphizing this experience, but making it so you understand. When it's talking about supply for every demand, what it's really getting to the root of is there is no lack.
Yeah. Law of prosperity.
There is no lack. Can I, in my human experience something that appears to be absent? Yes. But in truth, there is no absence. There is no separation. Everything is all one. And that's nice and feels good to say. But you got to understand what she's talking about.
Right.
There is supply for every demand.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it doesn't mean it's there before you ask, actually. It would have to be.
That's Bible. That's my pastor, former pastor would say, right? Before you called, right, I answered you.
The problem is we get stuck on what we see or what we don't see, and we think that is reality. That is our experience of reality, right? That's different.
So, and again, this is why I'm saying we have to tease out. She never in this chapter says, this is what the law of prosperity is. She's demonstrating it. And so, right, this woman was in a place that we have all been in some way, shape, or form.
I love that it was the 15th of the month.
Right. Right. But I told her, what's the truth? God is my supply, right? And there is a supply for every demand.
Right.
Right. And that's where we get into the beauty. I'm thinking about the hymn, right? Great is thy faithfulness. All I have needed, thy hands hath provided, right? It's always supplied. So she spoke the word.
In faith.
Yes. I gave thanks that the woman would receive $3,000 at the right time and the right way. I highlighted this because, just like that previous short statement was so powerful, this takes us out of God's business. Because the how is not our business, right? So many of us, I know it, right? So many of us are in this experience of it's like, okay, I need $3,000. And so I've got to get 10 clients by the 15th, right? I need $3,000, so I got to do this number of gigs, right? I need $3,000, so I got to sell this stuff. I give thanks that I will receive the $3,000 at the right time in the right way. That's allowing harmony, right? And that's allowing, I'm out of God's business. I don't know how it's going to happen. I just know that I'm already supplied. So I'm thankful that it will be easy and effortless.
And notice she didn't use, sometimes we use denials. It's looking at what you think you need. It's not saying, I don't need $3,000. Everything's fine. It's saying, this is what I need. It's not saying how I'm going to get it. But it is acknowledging that there is a need here. It's also bringing us back to the truth that if I perceive a need, there has to be a supply. And so then I get to relax a little bit in my thinking and in my searching and in my doing. And step back into that awareness. Okay, so I have something that I need. I perceive I need. I don't beat myself up because I need it. I don't judge myself. Well, if I was more aligned, I would never need. That wouldn't be a loving presence. It would supply whatever you need.
Exactly. And so she goes on, I told her she must have perfect faith and act her perfect faith. The 15th came, but no money had materialized. She called me on the phone and asked what was she to do. I replied, it is Saturday, so they won't sue you today. Your part is to act rich, thereby showing perfect faith that you will receive it by Monday. She asked me to lunch with her to keep up her courage. When I joined her at a restaurant, I said, this is no time to economize. Order an expensive luncheon. Act as if you already received the $3,000. All things whatsoever ye ask in prayer, prayer, believing ye shall receive, you must act as if you had already received.
There's so much there. I mean, if any of you that have worked with either PG or myself or been in class with us, you kind of hear us saying these things to you, right? And it's beautiful how she didn't go to, oh, it is the 15th. The day says this, God does this.
Right.
It is the 15th, but it's a Saturday.
Right.
No one's working on a Saturday except God.
Ooh, that's powerful. We go on. The next morning, she called me on the phone and asked me to stay with her during the day. I said no. You are divinely protected, and God is never too late. Right? And now this is interesting, right? Because Florence was absolutely supportive. She was like, yes, let's go to lunch. Right? But then what she recognized, see, what was rooted in this woman's question was, I'm scared and I need your superpower of speaking truth and knowing. And I know you have a powerful relationship with God.
Just like
and so
I do.
I need with that around me. Right? But Florence was like, no, because you have to exercise your perfect faith. But I love what she says here. Again, you're divinely protected and God is never too late.
Never too late.
Right? You're on God's time.
Now, that no might have come and she would have been, I'm sure she got off that phone and she was a little upset with Florence.
Oh, my goodness. In the evening, she phoned again, greatly excited, and said, my dear, a miracle has happened. I was sitting in my room this morning when the doorbell rang. I'm not going to go through this whole story. Long story short, it was her cousin who had come to visit her. And they had a conversation. She told him, he asked, after they had been talking and catching up, he asked about her finances. And she told him that she needed money. He said, I will give you $3,000 the first of the month. And she says, I didn't like to tell him I was going to be sued. What shall I do? I won't receive it till the first of the month, and I must have it tomorrow.
Oh, there's so much. There's so much here.
So much here. And so Florence said, I'll keep treating. Now, for those that are not familiar with this term, treating, in New Thought, we talk about praying as affirmative prayer or spiritual mind treatment, right? And so when she's saying treating, she's saying, I'll keep praying, right? Because what we recognize is that when we're praying, we're not asking God to do anything. We're treating our minds in order to become receptive to what it already is. So this is why the aspects of mind are important. Prayer is making use of our conscious mind to impress upon our subconscious mind to allow what the superconscious mind is trying to do, right? And so she's like, I'll keep treating. She goes on again and she says, Spirit is never too late. I give thanks she has received the money on the invisible plane and that it manifests on time. Manifests on time in the right way, in the right time. Right? She didn't say that it manifests right now or manifests on the 15th. Again, she's still out of the how.
Yeah, there's so much in this about resistance to receiving too. Because the money showed up. He didn't understand or know that she needed it right then. Her judgment about needing put her back in resistance to saying, I need it now. So there's all this other stuff that's happening that we think is what's slowing God. It's what's slowing God down in our minds, right? God is on time when we release and allow it to be on time.
Right. And then it manifests on time. What happened? The next morning, her cousin called her up and said, come to my office this morning and I'll give you the money, without a conversation about it, right? That afternoon, she had $3,000 to her credit in the bank and wrote checks as rapidly as her excitement would permit, right? So many beautiful things in this story, right? Understanding that the law of prosperity is also about, I preached a sermon, this is early, if you go back in YouTube, I think this was in our first year, acting as if or acting a wish, right? That Florence Scovel Shinn was admonishing her, you have to act like you've already received it. Many of us know that, but we're actually acting a wish. Right, we're still wishing and hoping, and
trying to figure it out. Trying to figure it out.
Right, and pretending our way, thinking we're operating in the law of prosperity. Right, perfect faith in this idea is an absolute knowing, and all of us have experienced that in one way or another. You can look back over your life. It's one of the things I love about the process of visioning, where we activate the sacred yes factor. right? And part of that is coming back to a time in your life when there was an absolute willingness, a yes I can, a yes I will, a yes I must. Someone may have told you that you couldn't be something or do something or have something, but you just believed it, even if it didn't make sense, you know, and the external conditions said otherwise, and you just moved forward and you experienced the manifestation of that. We all know the difference between acting as if and acting a wish.
And that's the other reason why kind of keeping a record of your gratitude is so important, because it can be a tool that brings you back to this understanding that I had in every aspect of my life, at varying times in my life, a need. It was supplied, and I wrote about it. I spoke about it. Now I get to remember those things. We act like the moment we have a new need that it's brand new to God, that God never supplied before,
Right.
that we never got whatever answers we needed before, or that this situation is so unique that it is beyond God's purview and possibility to do anything about.
Right.
But when we bring our minds back to, oh, wait a minute, this truth of supply, and I've been supplied. I'm supplied right now in the form of breath. I'm supplied right now in all the ways that I'm supplied. If you focus on where the supply has been and will always be, then you don't get upset and you're not in fear, doubt, and worry that this is unique or you're unique.
Yeah. And this is why we have to train our minds and our thinking to come to that truth statement that I'll go back to it. There is a supply for every demand. Right, let me just highlight that. Make sure we can see it. There is a supply for every demand. I'll hide that. All right. We have to come back to that truth statement, right? It's so incredibly important because, as PY said earlier, right, there will always be new needs, right? There are always things that will come up, whatever it may be, expected or unexpected. But if you train your mind to remember that the principle is that there is a supply for every demand, right? This is also what's rooted in when we understand nature abhors a vacuum. There's no such thing as empty space, right? Quantum physics teaches us that, right? That space always has to be filled.
It has to be filled.
Right? And
We think we're walking around individualized and that this is a table and this is a chair. But from this perspective of quantum physics, it's all the same thing. It's all there together. It's all one thing. It's all energy that's either speeding up or slowing down, but it's all the same.
All connected.
It's all connected. Right. There's no gaps in it. There's no gaps in the mind of God. And so, of course, if we perceive a gap, there has to be something that fills it.
I mean, oh my goodness. I really pray somebody hears that today. If you can train your mind to think that way, right, as often as possible, it's a game changer. Right? Because again, we say certain spiritual ideas and it's rooted in us. When we say that God cannot give you a vision or an idea, and you not have everything that's needed for that idea to come into complete being, right? That sounds cool and spiritual and prophetic.
Oh yeah, no. Isn't that wonderful and profound?
Right.
But it's true.
Right. We're not speaking a prophetic word over your life. We're speaking principle. That literally there's a supply for every demand. And so when something is in your heart, there's a vision, there's a way of being, a way of living in the world. It may be a new business. It may be just a new expression of life. Know that there is a supply for every demand. Right.
It's so interesting that as we move through this book, I almost imagine you're getting a rules sheet for a game. We're just revealing the rules so that no matter how many spins you make on the board, what you land, what pieces you land on, what place you land on, the rules still apply. It's just like Monopoly or whatever the board game, the game of life. There are rules. If you spin and get a 4 or a 6, a 9, a 0, whatever the rules are, you move, you land, the rules still apply. The problem is we think that there's new rules based on each situation. That would not be a loving God.
Would not.
And you could not win that way.
Exactly. So she goes on and she just gives us another powerful sentence and tells a story. If one asks for success and prepares for failure, she will get the situation she has prepared for.
Now, this is not punishment. It's just the way it works. It's not God testing you. You're not being put through trials so that you can come out the other side and make it to heaven. That's not what this is about.
Yeah. You know, I think this is another way to look at that idea of the subconscious doesn't have a sense of humor, right? That idea that the subconscious mind just takes what you give it, right? So when you're planning for something and you're like, well, you know, I really want this, but just in case, I'm going to go over here and plan this other thing, right? I'm going to still have a plan B. The subconscious mind doesn't interpret all of that, right? It hears, oh, she wants plan B. He wants plan B, right? And it begins to create, and then we get upset because it's like, well, I didn't want plan B, or I didn't really want to have to go to plan B, right?
Or we say we want, but unconsciously our core belief is we could never have.
Right? And so there's something powerful in this story where she says, a man came to me asking to speak the word that a certain debt would be wiped out. I found that he spent his time planning what he would say to the man when he did not pay his bill, thereby neutralizing my words.
Right. That's powerful.
Right.
And I'm not the only one. I know we have all done it. Okay, well, if he says this when I ask this, or she does that when I'm going to say this. First of all, you're not in the present moment. You're already projecting and creating a reality that doesn't even exist right now.
Right.
You're in the realm of worry, doubt, and fear, not the answer.
Which is inverted faith. Right? And so I highlighted there by neutralizing my words because I want to bring us back to this is not magic, right? That Florence Scovel Shinn, although she's definitely a dynamic, brilliant, powerful woman of God, woman in truth, right? That her words cannot supersede, and her knowing cannot supersede the knowing and receptivity of the person coming to her.
Never can.
Never can.
I can pray the most powerful prayer that I have ever prayed, but it cannot neutralize the beliefs of the person.
Or in this case, your actions, right? He came to her like, I want this debt wiped out, but he was planning and preparing for the very thing he didn't want. Right? So that's where his acting as if was, right?
Oh, yeah, he was acting as if.
Yeah.
Acting as if it wasn't going to happen.
Right. And so he was actively preparing, using his active faith for something that didn't exist yet, hadn't happened, and was planning and preparing for it, right? And so as she said, he should have seen himself paying the debt.
Right. See, here's the thing about the mind. You can use the mind to think on whatever you choose. Most of the time, what we're doing is planning for a future based on our worry and our doubt that it won't happen.
Ooh, can you say that again? Most of us are planning for a future based on what?
I don't know what I said.
Our worry.
Our worry.
Lord, have mercy. Think about that for a second. That's what most of us are doing. Okay.
And since that's the way we're operating, that's what we keep seeing and experiencing. And so the mind is only doing what the mind does. The mind is there to think. It doesn't matter to the mind whether it's thinking about what can happen or cannot happen.
Yep.
It's just there to think. And since we've all been conditioned to be in worry, we think that using our mind to worry is doing something. It's not doing what we want it to do. Right. It's doing something, keeping us in worry.
Right, right. Again, this is why we got to keep the three aspects, and we're using our conscious mind in that case, and impressing our subconscious mind.
We're using this beautiful faculty. What he should have been planning for and thinking about was having the money, paying the bills, seeing it already done, on to the next. Whatever would have helped him move into that way of being. Not what ain't gonna happen,
right.
And let me think about that all night, every day.
Right. Right. And so she goes on and she gives us the story in the Bible relating to the three kings. The three kings who were in the desert without water for their men and horses. They consulted with the prophet Elisha, who gave them this astonishing message. Thus saith the Lord, ye shall not see wind, neither shall ye see rain, yet make this valley full of ditches. We must prepare for the thing we have asked for when there isn't the slightest sign of it in sight.
That's faith.
Right? Now, here's what's interesting. PY and I were talking about this the other day. I love to quote Martin Luther King, right? Faith is taking the first step without seeing the whole staircase. But one of the things that we have to keep in mind, this is why we so often talk about what is your concept of God? Because this idea of preparing even when there isn't the slightest sign of it, right? This idea of taking a step and I don't see the whole staircase. But what is happening for so many of us, we think we're acting in active faith or perfect faith, but we don't even trust the staircase, who made the staircase. We believe that the staircase is rickety. We believe that the staircase only works for certain people. We believe that the maker of this staircase forgot about our neighborhood and people that look like me, right?
The staircase requires me to put the first steps in.
Right, right. We got to build the staircase.
I got to build the staircase. Let me just be honest. I got to build this staircase. That's what God is requiring of me.
Right? And so it's important. This is part of where so many of us falter, because it's like, okay, we get it. We understand. We have to prepare for what we ask for, even when there isn't the slightest sign of it in sight. But if I'm honest with myself, if I look, and how do we know? We can know by the experience of our life that, oh, I don't trust life.
I don't trust God.
I don't trust God.
And it's perfectly understandable, given what we've been taught about God, given the experience of our other people that we know and what they believe about God. It's understandable that we would be hesitant. But we've got to change that God concept so that we can understand these laws and principles.
I think it's Einstein that said it's one of those profound questions that we have to come to. Is the universe friendly?
Is it friendly?
That's going to change your experience of life, right? And this is why it's so important to heal our God concept and our God trauma, and why we continuously say over and over again that God is love. It's an unconditionally loving presence. Why we remind you that you're sinless, because that is the truth from the vantage point of God. It's holding no list of wrongs against you, no record of wrongs. As PY has said countless Sundays, God is not Santa Claus making a list, right? And we have to know that, because if we don't have that, there's no way that we're going to prepare even without having the slightest sign of it. There's no way.
No.
That would be illogical, right? That wouldn't even be that wouldn't be kind to yourself, right? Right? You know what I'm saying? Like, think about it for a second. That wouldn't make any sense.
So what we do now is just get honest about the concept of God that we have, and be compassionate with ourselves on how we've impressed upon our subconscious mind or been impressed upon. And then we set about making sure that we change what we believe God is and know God is. That was one of the most beautiful things that when I came to New Thought that resonated with me. I get to change what I think God is. I get to understand that God is not out there. God is within me, loving me, connected to me, having its way, moving in, through, and as me.
Right.
And then I don't set about trying to build a staircase.
Right.
I just walk on it.
Yeah. Hey. She gives us another story, which is powerful. I love this because this is a New York story. And at this time in history, there was apparently a great shortage of apartments in New York. It was considered almost an impossibility. And her friends were sorry for her and said, "Isn't it too bad? You'll have to store your furniture and live in a hotel."
They was already over into her future.
Right, active faith, right? She replied, "You needn't feel sorry for me. I'm a Superman and I'll get an apartment." She spoke the words. Infinite Spirit opened the way for the right apartment. She knew there was a supply for every demand. Again, I love this. It's not you can use these words as your prayer for something that you're seeking, right? Infinite Spirit opened the way for the right apartment. But what's important here is that she knew that it was not up to her to open the way, right? So this prayer is a prayer of surrender, but also for the right apartment. She didn't give Spirit a whole list. Again, I know, y'all, I am not poo-pooing on making lists and details, but it's important that we understand the God, why would God need your lists? Like, why would God need your specific details?
Right. We create the details. We create the list so it gives our brain something to focus in on. Right? That's why we do it.
Right.
It's not for God's benefit.
It isn't.
And there's nothing wrong with it.
Right.
But as I like to say, have a vision, hold it lightly. Have a vision, but hold it lightly. Have something that you're focused on. But if it begins to cause you worry, doubt, and fear, then loosen up
Yep.
your grip on it.
Right. And tap into, if you're in that energy. I can remember my sister and I being on the living room floor with the Sears Wish Book back in the day, right? Making sure that Santa Claus got stuff right, right? You got to make sure that you're not in that energy, right? Because then that's manipulation, right? You're trying to make it happen. But when you understand who and what source is, this infinite, beautiful, unconditionally loving thing, all you have to say is open the way for the right apartment.
Right.
And know that there's a supply for every demand. And know that it will meet all of your little requirements. It's funny to even think about that.
I love it because we have these ideas in our mind what it's supposed to be, and then it shows up better than we ever thought. Or we didn't even have that in our mind.
Right.
And so we're not saying little as in demeaning it. We're just saying that there's more.
Right. Like perspective.
Yeah.
Perspective. Right. So she knew there was a supply for every demand, and that she was unconditioned. This is what we're talking about. You can go back to the series Unconditional Living. This is why we talk about this, working on the spiritual plane, and that one with God is a majority. I love it's interesting here, and again, unfortunately, because of the way she writes, these are in quotes, unconditioned, and one with God is a majority, but she doesn't give us the sources. But I love, we can read in Ernest Holmes. She wasn't quoting Ernest Holmes here, but Ernest Holmes echoes the same idea in The Science of Mind, that one alone in consciousness with the divine constitutes a complete majority, right?
A majority in your life.
Right.
A majority in my life. A majority in PG's life. It's not a one pie that has to be divided up, and some have and some. We all have our own pie.
Right. And it's the profound part about this, that one with God is a majority, or a complete majority. Because let's think about it, right? You have 100 people, and it's like, okay, we all need to go somewhere tomorrow, and we vote, right? So it's 51 people, right? Then whoever 51 people vote to go to place A, that's where we go, right? So we understand this idea of majority. And I think this is important because so often we're waiting for like, well, what does God approve of, right? Like, well, I need to make sure that I'm aligned with what God really wants. One with God is a majority, right? You already have the yes. You already have the votes, right? All of that is rooted in this term, right?
You have all the votes you need. You and God is all the vote you need. It is. It's hard to accept because we've lived our lives so conditionally that we have to have other people's opinions, other people's input, that there's not enough. But what we're saying is, if you're really operating from the superconscious mind, the desires that you have are already in alignment with God.
Yes. Just a reminder, if you have questions, to send them to truthsunday@celebrationsc.org. You'll see it here on your screen. So she had contemplated buying a new blanket when the tempter, the adverse thought or reasoning mind, suggested, don't buy the blanket. Perhaps, after all, you won't get an apartment and you'll have no use for them. Right. So I love this one because she's bringing us to this idea. One of the definitions of the word Satan, right, is the adversary. Like that thing in your mind, that's why we have the term devil's advocate, right? That thing in your mind that's like, you better not buy that blanket.
What you gonna do with a blanket out on the street? Right.
You better keep your money, girl.
But that goes to our core beliefs. And so when that's activated, you know that that's not the divine mind speaking.
Exactly.
Right? That's your subconscious and conscious mind working together based on what you believe is possible.
Right. Which means it's an old thought.
It's an old thought.
It's from the past, right?
And that's why we don't rely so heavily on what we think should happen, because most of those are old thoughts that we keep thinking over and over and over.
And so y'all have heard me say it before. When fear speaks first, make truth the last word. So what does she do? She speaks truth to the word. She promptly replied to herself, I'll dig my ditches by buying the blankets. So she prepared for the apartment, acted as though she had already had it, right? So that was the next piece, that she made use of her conscious mind to say, yeah, okay, I hear that thought, And here's what's true, and here's what I'm doing, and here's what I know to be true, and here's what I'm understanding, and here's how I'm choosing to use the truth I know and make it active in and as my life right now.
And that is speaking the word in faith. Now, don't go out there speaking the word in faith and quit your job when you really don't believe that you could do that.
Please don't. I've actually done that. It doesn't work out. Right? I thought I was acting in faith. I thought I was acting in faith. I really believed it. And then at the results afterwards, I had to look at it because I was like, well, something ain't working out. And then I had to acknowledge that there was actually all this fear that actually
Was
had
motivating
prompted me and motivated me. But I had rationalized and spiritualized myself into thinking that this was a sign. And,
I had signs.
And,
the planets were aligned. My tarot card reading said. But underneath it all, you don't believe that this is going to happen.
Yep. I had a whole bunch of fear. Happening. And so, yes, I left my job, and my fear manifested in some very